All right, YouTube, after much internet reading and research and very little sleep last night, I'm no longer gutted. I'm optimistic again. There's a slim chance that it's head gasket, but it shouldn't be. Not from what I did. But I do remember when I put the first gaskets on the lower intake where it mounts to the cylinder heads? Coolant's supposed to run through those. And it comes out of the cylinder head into that lower intake manifold, the big tubes, and distributes across. So it's supposed to have inlets on both sides. And remember, I had a hard time getting that intake manifold gasket to sit on there onto the new gaskets because they were a metal, resin sandwich metal. And they were kind of flexible, and it was kind of lifting all over the place. And I was having a hard time getting holes to line up. And I made a comment, foreshadowing. Vita didn't say what the bolt sequence was supposed to be. It should be starting in the center, crisscrossed, working your way out. And I think it's up to 21 Newton meters. Don't quote me on that. I'll have to look it back up again when we get there. But going in phases, 7 finger tight, all of them, 7 Newton meters, 14 Newton meters, and then up to 21 Newton meters, and done. It's supposed to be done nice and evenly. And I remember that thing making a popping noise as it settled in. I'm pretty sure that resin cracked or we damaged that lower intake manifold gasket to the cylinder heads, and that's where our lack of a seal is, and that would explain coolant getting into the intake and burning out the cylinders without having to have a blown head gasket, because it's definitely not coming in the front. So anyway, let's tear down to it. We're going to put the spark plugs back in, we're going to rebuild all that, and we're going to tear it down today and take a look. Yep, I'm pretty sure I confirmed it because I have a coolant leak coming off of it's coming through, it looks like the weep hole where the oil would come through on the valley. So that's all pointing to an intake manifold gasket that's not holding coolant pressure. So yeah, it had leaked out overnight. Didn't have any in the tank anymore. We're going to drain it down, not completely, but just get it lower than the intake manifold in there. And see what we can do here to get it to stop leaking. And take it apart. All right, spark plugs are back in, coils are back in, bolts are back in, that holds the harnesses in place. Taped the inlets. This is where I have my crack. It's down in here, so I gotta get the fuel rail out with the ignition coil, or the fuel rail or fuel injectors, the electronics out at the same time. Get that out again, and pull that baby off and see where it cracked. Et voila! Somewhere down in there, we are leaking coolant in the valley, and it's draining down through the weep hole into the bottom. Yeah, so just got the fuel rail out. It was super easy since nothing had been baked on. Just a little bit of prying and wiggling, and it came right out. So, yeah, here's my bolts. I got 1 there, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9. I think that's it. There's just 9 bolts. Piece of cake. Oh, plus this one, 10. That's just on the fuel rail guide. So, yep, I can smell gasoline. I don't really smell coolant yet. So, most of the valves should be closed, right? So, it shouldn't have got in everywhere. So much for being easy. I was thinking, wow, wasn't this a really hard bolt to get to last time? Because that's the one I was staring at. No, it's a dead shot. It's this one that's hard to get to. Power steering pump's got to be moved, which means the accessory belt's got to come off again. Isn't this fun? Back to the front we go. I don't have to totally remove anything. I just got to get the belt off, put that tool on it so it stays in place. Piece of cake. All right, YouTube, check it out. It is back together. About ready for the first start. Comment down below. I know I'm skipping ahead, future me. Comment down below. Is it going to run without white smoke? Right down there. Hit that subscribe button. Follow along. We've been working on this thing for weeks. Total flashback to 2 weeks ago. Getting access without taking everything apart as easy as possible. Gonna leave this hose and leave this all connected and just get the belt off, get the tensioner release, get the belt off, get this off, and just let it sit over here on its hoses. That's the plan. Will it work? Nobody knows. All right, well, I was able to slip the belt off of a pulley, so we're loose now. I can get the power steering pump out of the way, leave this belt and everything in there. But unfortunately, I can't get that tool to slide in there because of how I'm placing my wrench. So we're going to leave it like it is, and we'll put it back on. It's just got to flex a wee bit to get that belt over that tensioner just below there. So we're going to leave it where it's at. Et voila! Already got this one out. This just doesn't make any sense to me why that mount would be all the way down here and then we can't get access to this one because of this bracket. Man, that's a pain in the butt design. Voila! Found my culprit. So this is flipped over, pulled out, upside down. I still have open into the cylinders. I gotta cover that before I do anything. Tape is still on this side, but there's nothing on there yet because I wanted to look inside. But look, this one is completely dry and it went on this side. This is the side I tightened first, and then I did this side. I did that completely incorrect. These two bores right there, totally wet. So there's my problem. Because I did this wrong and I'm worried I might have cracked this plastic or resin, whatever this is. Oh yeah, there's a crack right there. There's a crack, right? Or a seam. I'm not sure if it's a crack or not. We will toss this and wait for the other one to get here on Friday and put it back together. Yeah, I was hoping to drive this today. How does coolant go anywhere but just right here? I mean, there's no holes. This is intakes. These are all intakes. There's no holes for coolant to pass around except unless it just heats up these little pockets right there. But for that to happen, coolant would have to come from here. Oh wait, what's that? That right there, that's a coolant passage. Right here. How does it get coolant? Oh wait, that's a coolant passage. No, those are the long bores for the long screws. None of this makes sense. Okay, so I've already figured out a plan of attack for the next time I do this. I'm gonna mount this bracket with this. It goes on one of these two right here, I believe. Or no, goes on this one because it's upside down backwards. So it goes from this side, sits on the top. So I'm going to disconnect it from here and put it on with this next time. That'll make a lot more sense. Yeah. All right, YouTube, I'm at a complete freaking loss how coolant gets anywhere to go in. I read that these are warmed up by coolant, but I don't see any way for, there's no air passages that coolant, or there's no coolant passages. The only spaces are these two. That's a screw, that's a screw, 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 screw. These are the only two spaces, and they go into voids. So is it just letting the air come across? There's no access for coolant to get into that space. Not that I've found. And then I did discover this little gem on, is that the way it goes? No, it goes this way. Oh, it would be right here. Yep, I was playing with this. And that right there, that nub is supposed to look like that, and it is broken. And I don't know if I broke it putting this together, because there's pieces still in here that I got to get out. They go right there. So that one doesn't go down as deep as these other ones do. So that may have made it lift because a brand new one couldn't fit in. Got to dig that out. You can see what I did. I just taped everything shut with packing tape except for right here. This one's open, and I needed this open so I could dig in and pull that plastic out of this little groove, this little slot or holder. And then I put one across the valley just so I don't have to clean out the valley. I still don't get where coolant goes through this thing. And there it is. Just sucked it all out, pried at it with my little poker tool from Harbor Freight. Kept prying until it broke pieces loose, and then it started getting some play and everything started popping out. Sucked it out with a vacuum. So that was easy. But I still got to figure out how does coolant get here. Or even does coolant get here? How did coolant get in my cylinders? Well, I did some research. This water jacket seal is included in the timing cover reseal kit, which is primarily timing cover, valve covers, intake manifolds. This gasket goes over here, back in here on where there's a hard line tube that comes from the water pump over there, comes around and goes in to a jacket goes and is connected by another hose. This hose right down there. There's two silver bands. There's two silver bands. 1 and 2. There's a section of hose between them. And then this metal piece mounts onto the cylinder head. That is where this goes. And this is part of the timing cover reseal kit. Why, I don't know. But since we got a coolant issue, we're going to replace that. And maybe doing so, we'll figure out why it's involved. But anyway, we're going to set this back down on top of the tape. Oh, there you go. So now we can see it. It's underneath this. So this has to come out of the way. I'm going to get the throttle body completely out of here. It's not connected anymore. It's got one coolant line still hooked to it, but it should be drained enough that we don't have to worry about it. So let's go back in there and see if we can find that. I'm doing all the research I can, and I still can't find anything that tells me where the heck coolant gets into here. It says it does. There's no way for coolant to go up anywhere in passages. There's no holes. Nothing. Nothing. It says it does it in the center. It's full of crap. There's no way. Absolutely nuts. Pulled the little sealing cap off of the starter. We're gonna disconnect this because the battery's disconnected. There's no power coming through any of this. So we're gonna disconnect this so these can move and get out of the way. Then these can move over and get out of the way. And then I can get access in there because right now nothing can move because all of these hoses are just pinned. This sucks. That worked. I got a little bit of space here. Not a ton. But this wire can now move over. I can see the two bolts, this one and the one behind it, to hold this bracket into place, this engine lifting bracket. And then I can get access to bolts that are holding on that seal. Oh my goodness. Oh, I'm in the thick of it now. Went ahead and pulled this coolant hose off that sends one up to the throttle body, and it also goes to the heater core. Actually, no, it doesn't go to the heater core. Yeah, it does. It does go to the heater core. It's that one right there. All right, so this one I pulled it off, and I obviously didn't lose enough coolant out of the system because it started shooting out. So catch basin and towel and some cardboard down there. Yeah, we'll call that good and clean it up later. But now I'm getting access into here. I can get the brackets off. Those 3 bolts go through that housing. I gotta get this hose off. And there should be 2 more bolts. One here, and see if I can find it. Damn, that's tight. One, I got my finger on it right there. Just behind the starter. Yeah, how are you supposed to get into that? By taking this fuse connector line apart, I was able to get hoses out of the way. Yeah, much more access. I got a little swivel head to see if I can get in there because it drops down behind this lump on the starter motor. The solenoid here is causing some problems. All right, that holds the purge canister in place, and there's a bracket mounted on the back with a really long extension. I was able to get in there and just pop it loose by putting my hand in here and shooting back. There's 2 bolts right down there. Now I can feel the bolt I'm trying to get to on the back side. I just don't know if I can get a lever in here and just wrench it from that side. My God. All right, I was able to break that bolt free. How I'll get it out and how I'll ever get it back on, I don't know. I don't know if the starter is aligned right, if it's sitting up and not, I don't know, but it's blocking access to get in there. I had to use a 1/4-inch drive, long handled. I had this ratchet for some leverage in my toolkit that came from Walmart for the back of this car, and in it was a little 12mm head. So grab that, put it on there, and it even has a 3/8 into a 1/4-inch, and it was able to slide in there and just pop past the edge of the solenoid and get in there and turn that loose. Now I gotta get the bolt out by my fingertips, not lose it, and see if it'll come off. The elusive screw. Now I can get this one out. This one's easy. I almost took it out a minute ago. It's just like that. And this entire thing should pop free and lift off. Except I still got an attached hose, but I think I can slide my gasket down in behind there. Ah, there it is. And would you look at that? That is gonna go in there perfect. It's these 2 bolts. And it's this one in particular that's sitting in the back. Extremely hard to get to. I don't know if this thing was rocked or what, but it did not line up in a way that I could get to it. I'll check the starter motor to see if it's on there tight. Maybe the starter motor coming in from the bolts in different directions and didn't take all this off. I don't know, but it's off there, and that gasket is sitting right here. Oh, and it is old. Old, old, old. All right, so, $1,000,000 question. Why is a gasket that goes there part of my timing cover reseal kit when the timing cover is over here? Yeah, wouldn't this be all part of the water jacket hose kit? I don't know why it's part of this, but with my coolant leak and stuff getting into the intake, I'm willing to get in here and get this done. Not can I ever get it back together. Thank you, sir. May I have another day of pain? Let's see if we can get this whole side buttoned back together. What are the odds? All right, well, I had this completely back on with the new gasket in there and torqued. Yeah, not easy. 24 foot-pounds, had it all in there, and then I realized, oh shit, this hose is so short, it's not flexible to get back in there. So pretty much what you got to do, pull it all apart, take the gasket away until you get it tuned, get this to go back in the way the hose was originally. I had it reversed and I couldn't get this to line up on the pins. So pretty much what you got to do is get the hose in, have these clamps already on it, but at that end, and this is not in at all. So start here, put these clamps over here and rotate it down onto its thing, and then slide the clamps down the way they were oriented, because that's going to get your hose aligned with the way that it's going to want to mount on here. I did it the first time and had the hose backwards and it would not line up. So I took it all apart again, flipped it around, and got it to line up this time. And then, so you start with these clamps all the way over here. You slide the clamps down, get it oriented the way it wanted to sit originally. And then you insert this into there, into the hose. It's the only way you can do it. You can't get it through there with the hose attached to it. And you start wiggling it until it starts to line up distance, inside, insertion, and angles to get it to go over the two pins. Once you have it close, stop, pull it apart, insert the gasket. You can see the gasket's in there. Insert the gasket down in the space, get it to go over the two pins. Again, not easy, doing it blind. And then with the gasket in place, make sure you don't lose the gasket because it can fall really easily and you won't hear it because it's so thin. But you can tell it's there. So get the gasket stays over the two pins, and then just keep massaging that until the pins line up and it just pops together. Now you know you got it in place. I'm going to secure it, and then we'll slide these up. Oh my goodness. Yeah, I didn't replace, these hoses are not getting replaced. This one, the heater hoses, this little section, my God, if I ever have to redo that again. And then this one, which I don't remember where it's at. I think it just goes to there. It's sitting up on the bench or somewhere. It's around here somewhere. Anyway, I got a lot of more hoses to connect. I got that to tighten back up and torque, but I do have a new gasket on it, and the hose is ready to go. So it's just a matter of getting electronics and stuff back where they go. And then I did put a little bungee cord on here to lift this up so I get more access underneath. So just got to keep playing with it till things work and massage. This is one of the worst projects I've ever had to do. Just this part right here. Well, forget getting access to it and everything that how to get in there. But this hose and that gasket are not easy to do with that starter sitting in the way, but it is finally back in place. These are all spun exactly how they were before. It's torqued. I can put it back together. I can't believe I'm saying that. I hope that solves some problems that I didn't know I had. Presto changeo, it's all back together. But I can tell you it was easy. It was not. My hands hurt. I'm cut. Man, brutal, 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 brutal. This side is back together. Everything's. This is a. I don't have a quick release right there, so this one's super taped, not moving anywhere. Ready to go. This can flip back up and we can work on there as soon as I get my new lower intake manifold gaskets. I think right now I'm just going to jack it up in the air. And we're going to drain some transmission fluid overnight and fill it back up tomorrow. See if we can get, I have the Asian Volvo spec. They're the manufacturer of the transmissions. The JJW or JJSW09 or something like that. Whatever that spec is, it's that from FCP Euro. So we're going to drain some more out of this and put the right stuff in. All right, well, I got it back up in the air again. That wheel is torqued and back on. Remember, I couldn't find the mystery of how is that axle seal spitting grease all over the place. Turns out it wasn't. That was coming from the wheel, because after I got the alignment, I rebuilt the front end and did the axle and all the lower control arms, got an alignment. It had a little wobble, so I switched the two wheels, and I didn't really look at the inside when I did it. I just switched them real fast. That one got grease on it from that side, not from this side. That's why there's no grease anywhere. That side's still good. Unfortunately, this is the one I rebuilt when I redid the lower control arms, and I put a new boot on it. That was a lot of work to get that taken apart and put back together. And apparently, I didn't get it tight enough, because that big band is spitting grease. It was spitting all over the place. It took me a lot of time to clean it up. I cleaned up the inside of the wheel so I can see if it's doing any more. It probably is. I think the issue is this. Let me walk you back here. They're an Oetiker style clamp, obviously. That's my tool. That's all I got. So that's really good for like hose clamps and that other kind of stuff. Something tells me that when they bench set those giant Oetiker clamps on the boots, they have a bigger version of this, because I can't get that any tighter than it is right now. I got it just a little bit tighter by sliding some long-handled wrenches over the handle and, you know, getting some extra pry on it. But who knows if it's going to be tight enough. I do know that it did tighten up because extra grease squeezed out, and I cleaned that up again. So I know this axle is readily available from Volvo still, so who knows how much grease it has in it, because that wheel was coated. I cleaned it up. We're going to get it back on here. We'll drive it. I remember I'm only going to drive 100 miles, and we'll see how bad it's leaking, and then figure out what to do with that, because I don't know what to do with this thing. That kind of sucks, but the mystery is solved. It came from this side, not the other side, which means that axle doesn't need to go on. I just need to measure it and see if it is indeed a good one for this size jack shaft. All right, I'm starting to question, are these inner drain filler things, this is how you set the level when you get it up to the right temperature in the Celsius with the Vita. You let it drip out and then close this inner core. That sets your height of transmission fluid while the car is running. So this was brand new. This is one of the first things I did when we got the car. And that thing is not coming out. I even drilled into it and it snapped off my extractor. It's actually broken and it's sitting in there. It would not budge, so I grabbed it with a pair of channel locks. You can see the marks. And just with some leverage on the bigger circumference, was able to just undo the main one and let it drain out. But the other news is, it was this color last time. And I put in 3 plus almost 4, or 3, I think around 3 liters of red, Valvoline, the good stuff, the synthetic, I forget what it's called. Anyway, it's still brown. So it's a good thing we're doing this. We'll keep doing these changes, but I gotta get another one of these. Unreal. All right, well, I'm not crazy, because I put that in there to the torque specs, and that's driving me nuts. That thing was barely snug, and it doesn't even budge, and it breaks my extractor. So what I'm gonna do, I read on the forums on Sweet Speed that this has been happening even with brand new ones just like mine to a lot of people. Like, this thing is super soft. So my thought is, and I saw someone else post it, when I get the new kit in, because this one's pretty much ruined, I can't get that out. It's another $77 from FCP Euro as a kit. Comes with both pieces and the O-ring and the seal for the transmission. That'll be here next week. But when I get it, I'm going to go to the hardware store and see if I can get like a 8mm hex head, a regular head bolt that will thread in there, and use that instead, because that's bullshit. That was a brand new T40 and it just ripped it apart like it was plastic. All right, so I just did a little test fit here. Obviously it's not precisely where it goes. I pulled this off the bottom of the plenum. PCV comes out and goes into here, and it goes through these 2 vacuum lines, or to these air supply lines, back into the intake. Makes sense, because you can burn it off. What comes over the top of the cylinders? These are coolant lines, and one is coming off of the throttle body, curves and goes up. The other is a return back to here. Now, where does the throttle body get its coolant? it comes from this side. There is a little hose down here that goes into this hose. So, and I'm pretty sure this is a reverse flow for the radiator, or it goes through it pushes it through the engine and then the radiator or something like that. I can't remember how it works. Anyway, it's a reverse flow. It's got two pumps, a mechanical one and an electric one for the fluid. But anyway, that's it. There are 4 possible connections for coolant. No other coolant going anywhere. And then the vacuum lines, this one hooks up to the plenum to create vacuum, and that creates vacuum everywhere. And then this is the one, or this one right here, comes from this little, this is the engine gas recirculator or EGR valve or something like that, I think. Or it's, I'm not sure what that one is. Oh, that's the purge valve. Purge valve for the fumes, I think, in the fuel tank. I'll have to look that up and figure out what it is, but it's definitely air. This is not fluid. And that goes into the side of the plenum. So this one and that one are plenum, so they get sucked in, and this one creates vacuum, and that one burns off gases that this one says to open up and release. That's it. There's no more coolant anywhere, and I'm positive this is how I had it connected last time. Matter of fact, I don't see any other way that it could possibly be connected the way these are oriented. Because I thought it was a possibility. Maybe I had a coolant line hooked to a vacuum intake, and that's impossible. There's no freaking way that was the case. I don't know where the coolant was coming from. The only culprit I can still point at is down here on that gasket was not in there level because the pin couldn't fit down in because of a broken off pin from before, and I didn't see that. So fix that. Those now sit flat, waiting on my new ones to come because I don't trust these. All right, YouTube, so I think I may have solved the riddle of how I'm getting coolant into my exhaust or into the combustion chambers without it being a head gasket. Crossing my fingers. So I know that this side, the lower intake manifold gasket, was not installed correctly because it had a lip in it or a lift in it because of the little peg was full of a broken plastic one from before. So that's probably been like that for quite a while. But how does coolant get in there? Because I'm disagreeing with the web search on Google AI that said that there was a coolant transfer into here. There's not. These are thin walled. These are not hollow cores. So anyway, how did coolant get in? And I'm starting to think right here. These are old and not very flexible, and I wonder if this coolant line, these two hoses, probably this one that's actually flared on the end, and look where that would point, right to these two cylinders where it would suck it in to the intake down here, and it would go onto this bank. So that's kind of where I'm at. I'm going to replace both of these. I saw they're on FCP Euro. Replace both of those underneath there. Don't know why it didn't come with a recommendation for that, since in the timing cover kit, yeah, these aren't very flexible. They are hard. Yeah, my suspect is it's this one. So it's either that or a head gasket. Comment down below, and I'll get on the internet, order some parts from FCP Euro. I think those are like 40 bucks for the two of them, maybe 50 with shipping. Get those here next week, and we'll wrap this project up. All right, so it hasn't even been 24 hours yet, about 20 hours or so of having that transmission drain plug opened up. I can't close it until I get the replacement plug from FCP Euro mid next week. But in less than 24 hours, it's already over. That should be, which one's liter? This is liters. So it's just over 3, sitting right there. So that's 3, that's my 3 liter mark, and it's sitting right about there. And just in the time it took me to pour my catch basin into this jug, it dripped several more drips. So yeah, catch basin is back under there. We will let it keep collecting transmission fluid. And yeah, let's see how far this thing goes up. Maybe it'll hit 4 if it's got another 4 or 5 days of slow dripping. And let it slowly drip out. The more the better, because we're going to put that good. This is the actual stuff I bought. Asian. They're the ones who make the transmission. ATF OT4. It's the J. It's, what is this? It's JW. I don't remember what that code is, but it's whatever Volvo's spec is for these cars. And this is the shit. So supposedly it will be better. All right, YouTube, it's been a few days, but what I've decided to do is I'm going to replace the transmission fluid that just came out. Because I'm honestly, to be blunt, I'm kind of disappointed it was still kind of brown. I was hoping to be closer to red. So since it was still pretty dirty, we're going to do another drive cycle. Since I'm going to drive this 100 miles and drop the oil again and do the oil pan, we'll just do those fluids at the same time. So we'll put another 100 miles on it. I don't want to put the good Volvo specific transmission fluid into it because it's expensive. So I'm going to make another cycle of this fluid. This is the import Euro Volvo included full synthetic from Valvoline Max Life. So I'm going to use it. It's not Max Life, but it's technically the one that's Volvo spec'd. So I'm going to use it and just drive the 100 miles on it. We'll drop it again. Hopefully it's closer to being red and less brown. And if that's the case, we'll use the good stuff next time. I'm still waiting on a new kit for this. Remember my my extraction bolt broke off on the inside of that, and that was set to torque. This is nuts. So I'm actually just going to put this back in there, and we're going to put the exact same amount of fluid that came out. I still have it in the bin down below. We'll measure it again, and I'll show you what we got coming out of it. And we'll put the same in. We'll call it good, and we'll drive it the 100 miles. Then we'll drop it. We'll put the new drain plug in it that sets the height correctly, and I'm just going to tighten it to snug. We are not putting it over the top to the torque specs because those things are expensive. It's $60 after shipping, $70 after shipping. So we're going to do it once and call it good. Let's rebuild this and start getting some parts on here to restart this machine. All right, YouTube, well, look how convenient this is. This is what came out. We do have a little bit of loss because some of it sticks to the inside of the container. You know, I'm not draining all of it out when I measure it. Put it back into here. And this comes with just a little bit more in it. So I'm just going to put this whole jug in there. We're going to drive our 50 to 100 miles on that oil clean with the seafoam in there. And we're going to drain both the fluids again. And hopefully when it comes out this time, it's going to be more red and less brown. And then we'll put the good stuff in. All right, so we're going to chalk this one up to experience. So when I put this together the first time, this is a new set of these lower intake manifold gaskets. They are a little springy, the way they have the two sandwiches of metal and the plastic resin in the middle. And they're riveted right here, so there's a lot of spring in them. What I mistook and got wrong was when I put them down like this, they don't really seat. They want to lift up because of that metal springiness. And I didn't check to see that they were nice and mounted in there flat. This one had, this hole was stuffed full of old plastic from that peg. So it's all cleaned out now, and when I press it, it now sits nice and flat. Like it will compress down. So will this one. This one was fine. What I should have realized last time was when I put the weight of the intake manifold on it, it should have compressed it flat. And I just thought, hey, they're springy. It's just like this until I get it bolted down and tight. So I didn't realize that this one wasn't seated correctly. So now, let's chalk that up to experience, and hopefully I didn't break more stuff that's really expensive, and we just put that on there, bolt it up, and it seals shut. Check this out. I wish I would have realized this, because now with those things seated, with the lower intake gaskets seated correctly, this one on the front, the left bank, this doesn't rock around or spring or bounce because it's sitting in there correct. So I wish I would have noticed that. I'm also going to make an executive decision here, because this bracket, it sits on the back side of the power steering pump, and it mounts into that intake manifold bolt back there. It makes this really, really hard to get into because this bracket blocks access to this bolt. It also makes it really complicated. This needs to be in place when I'm tightening up the manifold, the lower manifold, but it can't be perfectly in place until it's attached to this. So chicken and egg here. I'm going to make an executive decision that this is not going on the car. I'm just going to use the 3 bolts that are here because when I look at Vita, this bracket's not even on the power steering pump, and it doesn't mention anything about it. It just says take the 3 bolts out and remove the power steering pump. It doesn't mention anything to do with this. So I'm going to leave it off. Comment down below. Am I making a terrible mistake? I can always come back in here and fix it. So that's what I'm going to do. We're going to do 3 bolts. 3 bolts through the front that mount here on the timing cover mount. We're going to leave it at that. All right, so I've just gone around to all 10 bolts. I'm starting with this one. Here's my pattern. Starting here because it's the most central. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. That's what I was doing. So crissy-crossy from the center, working my way out is what the internet says to do. They are all just me and my fingers finger tight, and it is sitting so flush. It did not fit like this the first time. Again, that's experience, baby. Luckily, I didn't break anything or crack anything expensive that I see so far. Crossing my fingers that this is not broken and that head down there is not cracked. I don't see that happening. But anyway, yeah, now we're going to take them up to 8. Then I'll probably put them at 17, and then we're going to go to 25, and that's good. 25 Newton meters is what the torque spec is on Vita for the intake to the cylinder heads, which is mounting right here, both sides. All right, so just for reference, I had to go around the whole pattern here, starting with there, crissy-cross centered, working my way out 3 complete times before they all set to just the 8 Newton meters. So now we're going to take it up to 15, or we'll probably take it up to 17. All right, so it only took 2 full passes, working my way crisscrossing out from the center to get it to 17 all the way around, where they stayed at 17 and didn't need to retorque on that 3rd test right in here. So we are good. We're going to take it up to 25, and this is where it gets scary because you just hope nothing strips out. All right, we are done. Took three rounds on the 25 Newton meters. The 2 that freak me out every time is these start off rock solid, and then these 2 just need to turn a little bit more to get to 25. And then these outside ones go a little bit more. But these 3 were pretty firm and set. It's just every time I came back around on the 2nd and 3rd pass, these 2 just needed to turn a little bit more. So I'm done. That's it. 25 Newton meters each. It's now taped shut, sealed shut, nothing rocks. I'm going to start attaching fuel rail. Yeah, let's move on. And actually now, am I going to be able, without that bracket in there, can I get into that bolt? Maybe? Maybe with like a 1/4 inch socket set, since that bracket's not in the way now. Cruising right along. I already torqued down the fuel rail. They're just 3 bolts, 1, 2, 3 on the 3 brackets. 2 bolts up here on the fuel pressure sensor. They all go to 10 Newton meters. Put the connecting bank for the PCV. This is the PCV hose connecting the left bank to the right bank, because that's where our no return valve or pressure, or I think it's just a maximum pressure valve, or not a check valve, but it is a pressure regulating valve, I think is how it's described. Anyway, so now we got to come back here, because remember I broke my canister. So this is what happened. One of the nubs broke off, and apparently this is really common as these things get old. This vacuum canister, just those nubs break off. So when you order the new one in the blue box, it comes with 2 new nubs, obviously, but it comes with an entire new bracket, which means I need to transfer the solenoid, this activating thing for the vacuum, across and get rid of this bracket. So this old dingy one is going to get replaced by the new shiny improved one. Yeah. Serpentine belt is back on. Just need to tighten up the power steering lines, put them on. I'll go ahead and mount my water tank reservoir and put this back onto it. It's still full of fluid, hasn't leaked out any. And then we're going to run into problems because I don't want to put the upper plenum on until I have the new hoses that go underneath it right there. These 2 hoses, the coolant hoses that come in. So until I get those, I think we're going to stop. They should be here on Tuesday or Wednesday. It is Labor Day today, so it's holiday day. You know what, I'll clean this up over here and I'll get the air box back in, because we're not going to be messing with this transmission for a while. We're going to drive at 50 to 100 miles with the fluid we put in there today. Yeah, big time progress. Check it out, YouTube. We made some serious progress. The air box is back on, computer's back connected, lost my magic wand magnet. But everything's connected, everything's up, power steering pumps, all this is all connected. I don't have any coolant in it because I'm waiting on 2 coolant lines to be able to reconnect it, re-vacuum fill it, and then hopefully fire this bad boy up and not have any steam coming out the exhaust. That would be great. Everything's in place. Vacuum canister's on. I don't have the lines run because I don't have the upper plenum on yet to connect it to, so we're just waiting for that. 2 lines, that's all I need. And we can fire this thing up and rev away and see if we get plumes of gray smoke wafting out the back. And bam, big box truck delivery just happened less than a day from last night putting it together. So let's get this on the plenum and let's proceed. Let's get some coolant in here and see if we can fire it up. All right, YouTube, did you catch that little mistake I had? I had this all mounted up. I had my pressure check valve for the PCV back in place, bolted in, and then I realized I never connected my fuel pressure regulator, the electrical connector for it. So I had to take all this back off, reconnect that, get it back on here, put it back on. All the bolts are in. Now we just got to torque these down to 19 Newton meters all the way around. Woo! All right, I have it all back together. Pretty sure I have it ready to start. I just need to get coolant in it. And I'm sitting here just contemplating my life choices again. And I'm like, what? The worst case scenario right now on this coolant is I've replaced the hoses under the plenum. Is that there's a leak right back here on that water jacket gasket on this, ties into this motor mount bracket. Oh my goodness, if that one's loose or that isn't good, I don't want to go back in there. I just don't want to go back in there. Please be not a leak from there. I'd almost say anywhere but there, but I don't want any leaks. And there's a coolant leak that appears to be between where all the manifolds are for the coolant lines, between the engine or above the transmission, because it's just coming down both sides. It's not coming from up high because nothing up here is wet, so it's down in there. I hope to God it's not back here. If it's back there, I'm going to cry. I'm just going to go inside and cry for a day or two. And the other thing I hope it's not is I hope it's not that little section of hose that goes between that water jacket and that water jacket, because that thing is brutal. Most likely it's that hose. I bet you money. I'm starting to think that maybe it's even I just didn't connect something down there, because I never even got it up to pressure. Like, it was just pouring it in nice and super slow through the canister because I couldn't develop a vacuum. Every time I'd start to create a vacuum, it'd suck some coolant up there and lose it as it fell back through, and it just couldn't create a vacuum. So maybe that's because of the leak down here. So I just started filling it super slowly, see how much I could get in there, and it just started pouring out after about 3 quarts went in. On the 4th quart is when it started pouring out. So something's wrong down there. Let's go see if we can find it, see what's wet. All right, well, I found my mistake. I didn't reach back here and connect my new hose onto my cooling jacket. So as soon as it built pressure, it just shot all of it out right there. Oh, whew. That's an easy fix. Easy fix. Matter of fact, I can just leave it in its state of disconnected and go ahead and finish filling up the coolant and make sure I don't have any leaks in here. Ooh, God, that was close. There. Doesn't that look much better? Right there. That's my new hose. One of them. This is my other one. Just forgot to put that on the back. Can't believe I did that. And right away it's able to draw a vacuum, but I can't get it below pretty much negative 16, 17, 18 bar, right, whatever that is, or inches of mercury. Anyway, it is not losing, it's just holding. So that's great news. It didn't do that before. But it did suck through a bunch of coolant, and I can't get it to go any lower because it just starts coming out and blowing out my vacuum maker. So good news is I don't hear any leaks. It's not losing pressure. We'll wait a few minutes and then we'll fill it up with the coolant we got left. All right, YouTube, admittedly, I did not show you the actual startup because I knew it had a ton of error codes. It was going to light up like a Christmas tree. I had turned the key on with everything disconnected so I could get it into, switch it from park to reverse, neutral, and drive with the transmission, seeing if I could get more fluid to come out of that tranny while it was sitting there draining. And needed to clear all that, so I went through that process. Sure enough, it started up. It stumbled at first, but remember, it had coolant in the intake. And there is no steam out the back. There is no steam back here. We're just gonna let this bad boy turn on and let's see what happens. We have one error code, and it is like it's the headlamp washers because I pulled the fuse. I don't want them wasting fluid. No messages on the dash. It is running. It idled down immediately. Piece of cake. I might have a car. And no smoke. Does not smell like coolant. No steam. No steam. Last time was steam coming out of here. Doesn't even smell like burning oil. Oh my good. Oh, I can smell a little bit of burning oil now. But that's obviously because the pan's been leaking and it's got tons on the exhaust pipe back there. Little rhythmical belt noise here. Wink, 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 wink. But that's all new pulleys, all new idlers. Should work itself out. This might be a little bit overfilled. We'll let it. Actually, once it cools up and does a drain cycle, it'll burp itself down. We're just gonna let it warm up. Watch the coolant temperature. Oh my goodness, I am so ecstatic. Straightening out from being up in the air. No big deal. That was a short drive because I blew my radiator hose and lost all my coolant. Right here, it baby blew off, so I didn't have that close to being tight enough. So, I need more coolant. I'm gonna go to the parts store, we'll let this thing cool down, we'll put that on there. But the good news is there's no oil leaks. None whatsoever. And I did not heat this up. We just drove right back a couple blocks, maybe 3 blocks, and put it in here and watched the temperature gauge the whole way. It's all right. It'll be fine. All right. Well, I went and bought 3 new jugs of 50/50 mix G48 Xerox. Got it down to negative 20 inches of mercury, and we're just going to let it sit here for like 5 minutes and make sure it doesn't drop below that 20. Make sure it's sealed. Got my hose back on. All right. Well, that coolant fill clamped down on the hose was a lot more successful. No blasting off. Drove it a little bit hard. It's sucking in some more coolant. We'll just watch that. I did go ahead and add 6 ounces since this holds between 6 and 7 quarts of oil in the crankcase. So I added 6 ounces, 1 ounce per quart through the top. Gonna let it sit in there. I have a Zoom meeting coming up tonight, and then this bad boy is going out on the road. We're gonna put 50 to 100 miles on it, and then bring it in and drain it and fill it back up tomorrow. Let's see how bad that oil looks when it comes out. And then actually going to drop the lower oil pan too while the oil is out of the engine. We'll get it all cleaned up from the bottom as best we can. And then hopefully I'm also going to drain the transmission fluid again, and hopefully it comes out red because it's only been driven about 10 miles, maybe 5 miles at the most. And it comes out reddish and not brown and gross. And we will go ahead and put the good Volvo stuff in there waiting on the counter. And if you can't tell, I am super relieved that it turns out not to be a head gasket. There's no more steam coming off the top of the engine. There's no more steam coming out the tailpipe. Everything smells like exhaust, feels perfect. It drives perfect. No codes, no nothing. I still have the covers off just because I'm going to drive it this 100 miles and make sure when I go underneath there, there's no oil leaks. But pretty much from the driving I've already done and running it in the garage, there are no oil leaks at the moment. Not on the front, not on the valve covers, not on the power steering pump. Everything's looking up.